Request Dr. Parijat Pradhan from Central University of South Bihar, please, and on the title, The Study of Sociology of Law, Sociology and Law, Exploring Trajectories of Socio-Legal Studies. Sure.
With your gracious presence and with this intellectual august gathering, I would like to emphasize my topic, that is the study of sociology and law, exploring trajectories of socio-legal studies. So, I will start with the famous quotation of a Spanish philosopher Descartes, who talks about, I think, therefore I exist. So in that way, thinking is a very important part of this academic exercise. And I think the legal framework, the jurisprudence, and the judgments also deal with this thinking process. We also these days talking about emphatic understanding. We are talking about intuitive learning. So in that way, we have to enter into multi-level layers of discipline. Because earlier we used to talk about unilinear model of knowledge, but these days we are talking about not only transdisciplinary but multi-levels of knowledge, like Professor Radha Kamal Mukherjee from the Sociological School of Lucknow talks about transdisciplinary approach, where we have to understand the knowledge from different ways through different angles. So, like, law can be approached from different perspectives in the present context and in a variety of ways. So, like a traditional legal scientist only try to see the law as an autonomous system. But when we enter into the area of social scientist, a social scientist talks about that law is not only about official rule, official law, or positive law. Law is also about the aspects which are called as the living law, which is actually being followed by the members of the society. Think about the decisions and the judgments coming up, like in Sabrimala case or in the famous sports in Tamil Nadu, where customs are prevailing in the mind of the people and they are not following the formal rule of law. How to fight with this kind of a thing? Because law has a very important role to play. Law has to play the dynamic role also, not only the static role. And in dynamic role, you have to create certain exemplary remarks through which the people can actually talk about the other norms which are prevailing in the society. So in that way, we are discussing here about sociology of law, which is actually discussing that somewhere there is a mutual interaction going on with law and society. Because the official rules can only talk about the proceedings, they only talk about the frameworks. But what will going to be the impact of those rules in the society? The external aspect is very important. And that's why we have to think in that way. For example, if you take the recent judgment in 2018, that is Lalitaben Tamboli versus State of Gujarat 2018. Earlier we have a Domestic Violence Act. But now, in 2018, that judgment is talking about that what is domestic violence? Domestic violence not only includes physical violence or sexual violence, it also includes economic violence as well as the most important part, emotional violence, or I can say symbolic violence. So we have to enter into new categories to define the violence also. Like earlier, law only talks about legal dispute. The word is legal dispute. But in sociology, we enter into conflict. There is a school called conflict school, and in that way, we can talk about the multiple levels of conflict going on. Remember Roscoe Pound. Roscoe Pound talks about where we have to mediate between conflicting interests. We have to adjust with the conflicting demands. And in that way, the word is social engineering. So somewhere, we have to enter into sociology of law in that way. Like there is a very famous debate, objectivity versus subjectivity. So in second Adhyaya of Gita, there is a word called Sthit Pragya. But we have to also talk about Antah Pragya. We have to enter into the emphatic understanding. We have to put our understanding, we have to put our foot into the other shoes to understand the reality. That is called as Verstehen, the famous method given by Max Weber, where we have to talk about, where we have to see the reality that is called meaningful interpretation of human experiences. And in that way, law can enter into more important realities. And in that way, the famous debate that how in 1960s in United States, a movement started out where it was talking about law in books must be transformed into law into action. And that's why law into action talks about practice, theory plus practice. And that's why we have to enter into different societal contexts. With the due permission of the Honorable Chair, I would like to include more emphasizing points. Like somewhere we also talk about the official norms, the legal norms, but we have to enter into the social norms. And there is a very important subdiscipline in sociology which must be included in legal education, the folkways and mores, the habitual understanding of the phenomenological debate. The phenomenology must enter into the syllabus. And it is already there though. Like you all know about because you are the students of law, like there is a famous debate between Fuller and Hart. So we are talking about natural law and we are also talking about the natural philosophy and the positive philosophy. So somewhere we have to enter into that debate where legal pluralism can be a way out, where the multiple layers of law can be dealt with different kinds of communication which is going on in the society. Because the judgments, they must be understood by the common man also. How they are actually interpreting that reality, that is very important. And that's why the judgment should also become out in different languages in an easy way so that the people can understand the reality in a better way. So, like I have talked about the Verstehen approach, even there are other such things where we can think about, like instead of positive law, we have to think about living law, which is actually prevailing through customs. Instead of official law, we have to talk about intuitive law.
So last 1 minute, please.
Okay, ma'am. So even if we talk about other such things, like these days, sociology of law is entering into new research areas, like legal policy, the debate on capital punishment, or how the judicial decisions can create a more remarkable effect in the society. So legal policy. We all know that earlier we used to talk about repressive law, but Emile Durkheim has talked about restitutive law, where we have to enter into more degrees of imprisonment, and in that way, where we have to talk about that reformation is also required in the society. And that's why Juvenile Justice 2015 Act talks about that we have to make a categorization, a child in conflict with the law and a child who needs care and protection. So we have to talk about reformation. A criminal is not a born criminal. He is actually coming out from the societal circumstances. So that's why an academic discipline must not be resolved to the intellectual experiences. We have to enter into the economic, political, and social circumstances also. Like we have to talk about the labeling theory of crime, how the crime is being understood. And that's why in sociology, instead of crime, we use the word deviance, so that we can talk about different other versions of crime. And in that way, we can talk about different other things. So Verstehen, intersubjectivity, phenomenology, interpretation, Derrida's deconstruction can be a very important point, because you can have a vision of poverty and crime by reading Godan and by reading Poos Ki Raat by Premchand. But even we can understand the reality, like the previous scholar is talking about the other important areas like going into the field. The field approach is very important for understanding the reality. So in that way, and at last I would like to say, coming here is like coming here into the family, because I am also a part and parcel of this institute. I belong to two families from BHU. One family from where I have received my education, that is the sociology department, and the second discipline is here, where I have first got the opportunity to teach in first year BLLB courses, the first batch. So I was there for 1 year, and coming here is actually being coming here in the family. And Honorable Chairperson is also the part of my extended knowledge family. Somewhere we are related to each other. So in that way, lightening the lamp inside is very important. And that's why practicing knowledge is very important. So thank you so much, ma'am.